Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of Maw of Mike for the year of 2022. Believe it or not, here we are. It's the future, and we're sitting right in the middle of it. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, my name is Michael Curtis. I am Director of Product Development for DCC, for Goodman Games. And this is the show, basically, where we talk about kind of what's coming down the line and what you have to look forward to, and we have some guests who come on and they talk about some of the more immediate products. So tonight, for the first episode of the year, will be joining me a couple familiar faces to the show, as we were discussing before. Both of them have appeared on 66% of the show so far. So for joining me yet again is Stephen Newton. Stephen, thank you very much. Welcome for coming back.
Hello, Mr. Curtis. Thank you so much for having me on again. I'm trying to bump my numbers up to a full 70% at some point.
We'll keep working stuff out. I mean, eventually the percentage will work out if I have enough shows. But right now you've done two shows. We've had three so far, so the percentage is really easy to work out. So we've got some ground to cover tonight, but we're going to start off talking about the adventure that Stephen is working on, and which we will be releasing next month. It will be out, hopefully. I think it will be. I'm not quite sure when it's going to hit the distributor chain, because the distributor chain is really strange these days. But there's a good chance of it. We'll be talking about other stuff next month, so we figure we'll bring you on early. So the adventure is a great name for adventure. So, Stephen, what is the name of the adventure that you were working on that we're going to announce here tonight?
Well, thank you, Michael. So we would like to announce Love in the Age of Gong Farmers. So yeah, it's a little bit of a different vibe than what we've done in the past, but I'm very excited about it.
It is very much a different vibe from it. And originally, kind of the plan was that this was going to be released as part of this year's Romance of the Cyclops Con, this is the name of this year's, of course, online Goodman Games Cyclops convention. But there were some changing rounds of dates, so this has become our very first ever. And depending on sales, it might be a very last ever. So if you have a good time with it, please buy many copies of the DCC Valentine's Day issue, of the module. So this the way this one came around was a little bit unusual, because normally it's like either like an author pitches us an idea, or we approach an author and say, could you do this? But this kind of came in like it sort of came in the back door, if I remember correctly, because this originally became, now stop me if I'm wrong, but originally there was some talking about like trying to do an adventure where like we line up characters by like their birth augurs or something, like some weird kind of online dating service, like using everybody's luck modifiers or something.
Exactly right. So we have to go back. It was about a little bit over a year ago, and we were going to do I was a special guest on one of your shows. That's, I guess, how I got to the 66%. And we decided that we were going to hold a contest for the Valentine's Day. It was either we ran it on Valentine's Day or we announced it on Valentine's Day. I couldn't remember how it spun about. But then we had this whole contest of like, yeah, we'll have people pitch their PCs, so they're going to bring in the adventures, and we'll give them like dating stats of like, what kind of primary weapon do you like to use, and what's your thief ability of choice, and try to match people up. And I think we got all of like fives of people that would actually submit it. So it was pretty easy to choose the matches from there. Yeah, and then I ran the adventure on Twitch for one of the shows with the lucky winners, and now it's fleshed out, so to speak, for Valentine's Day adventure.
I will say about this is that you have done several of the various holiday themed adventures now at this point. So this is actually actually, for something that has a lot of hearts in it, this is actually pretty much not as ghoulish as most of them. So this is
right. Actually, I have to think about it. I don't know if I've done any other than the MCC. I don't think I've done anything other than holiday adventures for you guys now. But regardless, there is. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about the adventure, but the horror was toned down quite a bit. There was that opening introduction, so we'll give minor spoilers. I'll talk a little bit about it. So when doing the adventure of Valentine's Day adventure, immediately I thought, okay, so what are some Valentine's Day tropes that we know will need to be in the adventure. And so one of the easy ones that won't, I'm sure you won't be disappointed, is we have something to do with those little candy hearts. So obviously those made it in there. But what I also did is, like I do in many of the adventures, is I went back to the history. So I started looking up the history of Valentine's Day and where that came from. And there's some talk online that it was actually descendant from the Lupercalia Festival of Rome, which was this festival where the amorous people would run around and slap each other with strips of meat in order to show their amorous intentions. And so that was in the early drafts of the adventure, but apparently that got, so now it's the slapping is still there, but it's no longer bloody strips of meat. So that's something to look forward to.
Right. I mean, it's the idea about, fantasy is to take the inspiration and not just like, we weren't trying to do, Roman crawl classics. So like,
right, exactly.
Deviate from like the source material a little bit,
Yes,
so.
yes. So
it's
been inspired, but it's DCC-ified, as we like to say.
And we did keep the Steve Newton tradition, however, of managing to get giant beavers in here.
Absolutely. So if you're looking for them, they're in there. But they actually have a prominent role in this one, so you'll see them quite clearly.
Yeah, I see. As we've learned when we were talking about Tomb of the Savage Kings, it's a little difficult to talk about an adventure which has not been released yet, without getting into spoiler territory.
Right.
I think I think we can let some of the setup out, because I think you can kind of describe an overview of what the plot of the adventure is, because this has, I'm pretty certain that this is not something which is done before. You can, would you care to describe kind of basically what our main NPC and what has been done with him and what needs to be fixed? So I think we can go that far, because that's like right out of the bag, the second encounter in. So it's not spoiling too much, right?
Okay. So that sounds great. So like most of my adventures, they start with you were in a situation, a festival, a ceremony, etc., and something goes horribly wrong, roll for initiative. So in this case, we have a similar setup, which establishes the PCs. But then what they come across is a young priest named Valentinus, and he is being punished by an angry god because he has cured a young woman's blindness who is from a rival patron. And so what this angry god has done has ripped out his heart and hidden it away somewhere for the PCs to go find, and they've replaced it with a mechanical bear that is actually keeping the young priest alive by squishing his heart together. Like, I get my inspiration from those mechanical monkeys. So the MacGuffin, if you will, is you have to find, in fact, the original name of the adventure was The Lost Heart of Valentinus and the Funnel of Love. So the PCs then have to go through a series of encounters trying to find the lost heart of Valentinus.
So basically, if you're going to buy one adventure this year, which involves a mechanical bear being an artificial heart of somebody, make sure you buy Love in the Time of Gone Farmers. That's it. Right. So if you've not been able to figure out that much, is that this one is, there's tongue firmly in cheek for part of this. I mean, and this is originally we were going to release this as for Cyclops Con, so it was, it's somewhat on the lighthearted side. It's not, it's like if you go in expecting like Doom of the Savage Kings, you're going to be disappointed. I mean, but at the same time, this is a fun little romp that you want to kind of get together and you can kill. I think you can probably do it in a session, right? I mean,
absolutely, yeah. It's my playtesting. I've done it a few times, and I'm through it in about 3.5 hours. Yeah,
right.
Typically,
so, I mean, yeah. So you can go and get a couple of pre-gens off of Purple Sorcerer, and then next thing you know, you're going around through the Funnel of Love with a priest with a mechanical bear and a heart and giant beavers, and formerly people slapping meat against one another. We're no longer doing that because we changed that, but people still slapping stuff.
And it's still got some combat. It's still got some puzzles. It's got everything you love in a DCC adventure. It is fairly linear, I will say that, because of the way it's, you're basically on the Funnel of Love. But it has all, it's a tidy little adventure, we will say.
Possibility for singing, there, you can
Yeah, there's poetry in it. There's singing. There's you'll learn a little bit about the history of Valentine's Day along the way, if you read between the lines. So it's a fun time. I hope people find it a fun time.
I think people will. I had a lot of fun reading it. You know, it was like I said, we didn't have to do much to develop it. So you know, I mean, like I said, it's like, you know, you don't get a lot of adventures with mechanical bears, you know, as hearts.
Right.
So, I mean, right there. I mean, you know, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
check Wizards of the Coast. What's
That's
your
right.
move? You know, like, so.
There's some other Easter eggs in there as well, so you can look for those. There's some of your favorite authors show up as NPs. What's a non-player character creature? NCC.
Well, yeah, it's exactly the same thing. It's
yeah.
Or maybe we're NPFs.
Oh, that could be. That could be. That's right.
NPFs, you know. So yeah. So this is, like I said, this is we've never done a Halloween. Sorry, we've never done a Valentine's Day adventure before. So this is new ground. We just happen to have one. And you know, if it does well, Joe and I are already talking. And if we do know that Joe is like, all right, the next one is going to be called Funnel of Love. I don't know what. It's going to be a 0 level funnel, and it's going to be Funnel of Love, and that's the plan. You know. So he's like, we couldn't really do that with yours, although feel free to rip the idea right off of that. So
absolutely, yeah. I'm big on sequels and spin-offs and everything else. Or we could, with the Funnel of Love universe, the yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, as just as long as we don't get you know, we don't get any cease and desist orders from the Hallmark company before it's all said and done, you know.
That's true. That's true.
So it should, you know, it should be good. It's like, you know, it's the kind of adventure that you want to pick up, you know, you play, have some fun, you know, get some wine, get some chocolates, you know, sit
That's
around.
Right.
It's, you know,
yeah, strum a lute, do whatever you're gonna do, right? Whatever romance means to you.
I'm not saying it's going to, you know, improve any chances of you getting along with, you know, with the object of your desires or anything, but you know, hey, maybe if they're a gamer or if they're interested in gamers, you never know.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah. Well, if next year, you know, you become Steve Newton, game designer and advice columnist, you know, we know things have either gone horribly right or horribly wrong, one of the two.
Yeah, I could put that in the Gazette. Ask Stephen, you know, like romance advice for gamers. And I'm like, I don't know. Fire dice. So,
all right. So, you have anything else you feel you want to add about it before?
Let's see. Well, I without, I'm like trying to think what I would add without giving stuff away. I think the fun part when you read the adventure, there is one encounter in there, because again, it's Valentine's Day. So I was going through all the tropes of, like, you know, there's cards, there's candies and all this. And I did a candy based encounter when I realized, oh, I'm in the wrong holiday. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to keep it anyway. We'll see if people notice it. So you get a bonus holiday in there as well. So that's what I would say.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody can complain.
Yeah.
So, you get two holidays for the price of one.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, or you can just up the body count and run it on Halloween next year as well. Then you get 3 for the price of one.
There you go. There you
go. For the same price as a normal, you know, DCC flat adventure. There you go.
That's right.
All right. Well, so I've got a lot of ground to cover tonight, so I definitely wanted to. It will be Love in the Age of Gong Farmers coming out next month. Hopefully, it will be. We'll see if it'll be available on Valentine's Day. We're going to try for it. At the very least, hopefully, at least a PDF will be version of it. But you know, so there you go. So make your Valentine's Day plans now. And Stephen, I think you take a couple of months off. We'll have you back on the show, you know, a little bit further down the line. So.
That sounds great. Well, thanks for having me on. I'll stay online and chat with people on the sidelines here, and I look forward to seeing your other guests that are coming up.
Yeah. All right, man. All right. So, all right. Thank you very much for joining. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Hey, we are back, and joining me this time around may be somebody that you remember from the very first episode of Maw of Mike, Mr. Julian Bernick. And Julian, you are joining me tonight, and the fans by association, to talk a little thing called what's it called? Empire of the East, if I remember it correctly. Is that correct, sir?
That is very correct. You got it.
So as longtime Goodman fans will know, we released I 2 years ago, I think it was, and maybe even more. I've lost all track of time with the pandemic, so I can pull it off the shelf and check the read it. But we released Empire of the East as part of a licensing agreement with the Fred Saberhagen estate, and that covers the stuff that appears in the Changeling Earth. And they rename stuff. Do you remember like what the entire overview is, or is it?
They call the whole trilogy the Empire of the East usually, or sometimes the Changeling Earth, but it's like the Black Mountains, the Broken Lands, the Black Mountains, and oh no, drawing a what's the third one is called? Oh God. Ardna's World. Ardna's World. I think it's Ardna's World is the third one.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always screw it up because in Appendix N, Gary Gygax calls it like the Changeling Earth is like listed.
Yeah.
I remember trying to find it at one point, looking for the Changeling Earth and not being able to find it, and then it really was like the Broken Lands or whatever came up, and I was just like, okay, this is what it was. But
it might have been an alternate title of the first book too. I can't remember. We need a Jeff Goad, some self-styled Appendix N expert, to tell us that sort of thing, I guess.
Right. Or I should do a little bit more research before I have a show. One of the two,
Well, yeah, or me too, before I write all this stuff.
That's okay. Well, anyway, the good news, it's kind of mixed news. Well, the bad news is that we sold out of the initial print run. But the good news is we are reprinting it. And in fact, I believe it's actually on the way to the printers now, if it's not already there. So the process is in, and we will be getting a second printing of Empire of the East. And because we kind of recalculated some of the page counts, we realized, hey, we can fit some more stuff in here. So at that point, it was just Mike has to figure out what else are we going to add. So I talked to Julian and said, Julian, do you have anything you can add? Maybe like 8 pages worth of stuff. And Julian said yes. So what do we have to look forward then in the second printing of Empire of the East, Julian?
Well, I'm so glad you asked me. The first thing I was thinking about was that there hasn't been a lot of support for it. There's a couple adventures in the book, but there's not a bunch of freestanding adventures. It doesn't have all that kind of thing that Lankmar has and so forth. So, and I thought to myself, it would be nice to give people, more adventures, but you can't really do that in 8 pages. Obviously, you can't give them more than one. You could maybe give them one short one. So I began to think differently about it. And I thought, what would be really neat would be to give them a toolbox with which they could run at least a short campaign. And so that's kind of what I set out to do was, it's kind of organized into 3 sections. The first one, because there are no clerics in Empire of the East and there's no, fleeting luck or, healing type thing, a la Lankmar, other things. So, I gave a few options and a little bit of advice for how to do healing in an Empire of the East campaign. That's a short section. And then we did a little sandbox location called Erdip, which is just a river town with smugglers and a crazy satrap and herbalist secret agents and free folk spies and all that kind of stuff. And that's a location in which you can sort of sandbox around. There's 14, 15 adventure hooks for that location with the stats for the personages and location, brief location descriptions, that kind of stuff. And then the last thing we did, to go a little bigger, and this is the thing I think was the most fun, and people had fun playtesting this a little bit, was the what we call the random adventure generator. So we came up with a big list of like NPCs, situations, locations, magic items, technology artifacts, and even complications, so that you can just actually roll the dice and generate like, okay, here's tonight's adventure. It might even be 2 or 3 nights adventures if you can string it out, or depending on how long your sessions go.
Right. And I have to say, it was like when I took a look at it, it reminded me not not in the same necessarily mechanical way, but the same feel and the same result as like the carousing tables in DCC Likemar. It's, you know,
Hmm.
it's a really quick way to kind of generate a potential complication, or just something that to kind of to give the player something to focus on for the, as you said, for like a session or for, you know, entire campaign. And, you know, like with the way you have it set up, you can either resolve like basically everything with like almost one die roll, or you can do several die rolls and kind of pick and change, you know, the like the various elements on it. So you want to get a little bit more like kind of like how that works, you know, because I'm sure, you know, I'm sure people are interested in, you know, I mean, because you have like five or six different columns that you
Oh
kind of
yeah.
together, right?
Yeah, and so no, I had a little fun with this, and at work actually they accused me of being like an old school Excel nerd, you know, matrix guy, right? I think in tables, which is, you know, very useful for DCC, of course, right? So of course, this is where I live, in tables. And so the idea is there's 20 rows, and there's, I think, 5, besides the number, there's 5 columns of those elements that we mentioned. And if you just roll a straight result and pick a, you know, row 7, you get, you know, elements like a bad guy or an NPC, a location, you know, a sort of a mission, a technology artifact, a magic item, and a optional complication that you could kind of, that sort of coheres. The hopefully they kind of cohere it in that row.
Mhm.
But if you said, well, I like, you know, I like the NPC and I like the mission, but I don't like the artifact, you can just roll again and take result number 19 for the artifact and then throw that in there. You know, you can, or you can just say, you know, I want to do it like Crom intended, then you can just make 5 rolls, and one is your NPC and one is your artifact and one is your, you know, so on and so forth. And then you know, that's the more kind of, that I challenge people to use the random generator to, as Crom intended. And yeah, I think that's kind of fun too. It's also probably, you know, Empire of the East is pretty core standard DCC, and the setting is kind of has DCC-ish assumptions. I mean, I believe you could use it pretty easily for a regular DCC campaign as long as you wanted to kind of color within those lines. And it has a little bit of a military fantasy type feel. Yeah, I had a lot of fun putting that together. And you know, the funny thing about using that random tool is when you get to 4 or 5 things and you always don't like one of them, because you've been looking at a bunch of them, you also think of the thing that you did want. So you take 3 of them, and you also, you suddenly kind of like, oh, and what would be better than that one is this one, you know?
Mhm.
So you're welcome in advance, because I always found that it kind of spurs you to actually generate other, even more ideas too, just out of the blue.
Right. And I will also I'll say with that is, having ever written an entire book on like dungeon elements, you know, like the dungeon alphabet, you know, like I will say that it's sometimes it's that one result that you don't like initially that
Mm,
completely turns like what would have been like just a bog standard adventure into something extraordinary, because you're like, I really don't like, I don't see how I'm going to get like an aircraft carrier in this adventure. But then like you start thinking about like, all right, how would I get an aircraft carrier in this adventure? And next thing you know, it's like, oh, wait a minute, you know, and then that totally turns into something which is like, you know, like 6 years down the road, your players are all talking about, well, that time we stole that aircraft carrier, you know, it's like, you know,
so that is exactly the, I think it's good to push yourself, and but you know, you can roll again and roll again, or you can of course make up your own and put it in with what the other elements you've got. So it's really flexible tool. People had a lot of fun with that. And I had fun, and I'm still running some, well, they're not really play tests anymore at this point, but I'm going to be still running some adventures with it because I had a blast using it.
yeah, I've heard very good stuff about it. And well, let's talk about the Sandbox City for a little while too, because I'm a big fan of like clearly like the Lankmar book, you know, like City of the Black Toga. That is very much of, and this goes back to a design thing that we discussed before we put out DCC. It's like we didn't want to do the like a write up of a city, which is, you know, the warehouse district has a lot of warehouses in it. We didn't want you something that you would have to sit and memorize and everything like that. and I'm very much in, this kind of applies to all my game design, but like you should give like the judge basically a toolbox full of cool things. Like I always think, I always like think of it as like a Lego set. Like here are all the pieces. Now do something neat with it, And I think very much is like, the city in that is very much the same thing. It's like there's not like a set, like, okay, there's not like a set plot, but instead it's the setting that you can pretty much drop in anywhere, and then there's plenty of ideas which you can kind of roll with, and either on the fly or ahead of time, and that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy. So what
Yeah.
was it like putting that together? Was it
It was a lot of fun. I had to, this is an interesting project because unlike the adventure generator, you can pull on some elements that are already there, or you can say, well, in the first book, Saberhagen has a tank called the Elephant. So, spoiler alert.
spoilers?
But so now I could have a submarine, or we could have a missile launcher, or we could, you just kind of cut and paste, copy paste new elements the same. But this got a little different, and interestingly, settings weren't necessarily a big. I mean, he has some really interesting settings that he moves through in the books, but they're not like super big parts of the. There's not a Lankmar in those three books, so I wanted to really make an interesting place that could be a base, or maybe a place you keep coming back to do stuff, and have it be kind of intriguing and also useful. But you have to color within the lines and kind of have the Empire of the East elements in it to make it feel real and to hit those notes of the leather wings and the free folk, and the East is out to get them, and it's kind of gritty, it's pretty low magic. So I tried to bring those elements into a little bit of a different sandboxy setting, with maybe a little Star Wars sprinkled in, and maybe a little Mos Eisley, and maybe a little bit of.
I was wondering if I was just reading that into it, or if I was, I was thinking that.
Hey, I was born in 1970. What are you gonna say? Star Wars is Star Wars, but yeah, it was. So you try to put some of that stuff together, and just a toolbox. You could use the locations and ignore the NPCs. You could use one of the little adventure hook ideas and use a few personages and completely ignore the setting. I mean, again, you could use the whole thing and run your campaign there for probably 6 or 10 sessions and build on it and add to it, and just take that foundation and build a skyscraper if you really were motivated. Or you could
knowing players burn it down by the end of the session.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, certainly mine would. They'd take it over, and yeah, and that's what it's there for.
Okay, yeah. So that, I mean, it's I think between that and between like the random adventure generator, I think there's a lot of, although it's not like, it's like the book didn't, like the second printing is not like double in size or anything, but I think
No.
with those sections, I mean, as as just kind of like additional material as it is, there's still just so much opportunity to kind of build on it and just come up with stuff, and just kind of it's until we get around to building out more of Empire of the East, everything, which is on the to-do list. But for the time being, while we're trying to get over all the other ducks in the row, it's I think it will be very, very helpful, and having a way for player characters get healed is also very useful.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that was I think it's just not addressed much in the first book, and it's not that you couldn't run it without magical healing. In fact, it becomes a really interesting way to run a campaign if you get serious about it. However, it just doesn't really jibe with typical sensibilities of people who played D&D for 50 years or whatever.
Right.
So it's not to mention the whole second book focuses on magical healing as a plot device, right? So so we wanted to we wanted to kind of provide some, again, color within the lines, but give judges some options as to how could you do it but be true to Empire of the East and not have clerics, because in the first book Rolf says there are no gods. I mean, there are no there's no gods, right? I mean, it's you don't want to They're not like you can, well, you can maybe slide a cleric in there. No, it doesn't really work.
Mhm. No, well, I think if you, I think it's going to be a value addition if you want to run Empire of the East, and you haven't, or if you're just kind of learning about Empire of the East, just kind of reading it for the first time or anything. Pick up the second printing of it. You'll get some fun stuff out of it. I will say, like, I've spoken with Julian, and as I said, this is the first show of the year. So we're kind of I'm looking, long term here. Now that it's like, wow, I've got 12 months of like DCC stuff going on. And we're kind of have a schedule of releases for the year, and I would really like to get a Empire of the East adventure in there. Julian has kind of had some ideas and putting some stuff together and everything. It's just a matter of finding, like, can we fit it in the production schedule and everything. But so you're still on tap for that. We'll talk more about that as things go. But I know that there are people out there who would love to see. One of the things is, like, Goodman before that, if you've been paying attention, there's been a lot of hires on the Goodman, and as we've been coming on, basically, where it used to be Joe was responsible for keeping everything on track, now he can basically focus on more important stuff. So a lot of that things that we should have, a lot of things got kind of log jammed or didn't get enough attention as they could have, just because there was just so many things going on. And now that, I'm focusing slowly on DCC stuff, that can be my job now. So, so there's a lot of talking about, like, what do we want to do for, like, MCC? What do we want to do for, Empire of the East and stuff? Do we, like, let's, they're franchises, let's continue to support this. So this is kind of the first step of Empire of the East, and hopefully there will be more to come. All right. So any last things you want to say about the second printing or anything before you?
Well, I will say, I think you could use a lot of this stuff for MCC too, especially the random generator. I think it would, I mean, and for that matter, there's no reason you can't drop a nuclear submarine into your DCC campaign either. But you might find the artifact things fit more in your MCC thing, but whatever works.
Right. So, it's not like we've never had, time machines or anything like that in DCC. So there's
right.
So
Exactly.
And Saberhagen is on Appendix N. So hey, it's all free to go. So there you go. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on and talking about about your work on the second printing of Empire of the East. Hopefully, like I said, that's at the printers now. I don't have an exact date of when that will be out because pandemic. So but it'll hopefully sooner rather than later. So so thank you very much, Julian. And we're going to take a quick break, and then I will be back to talk about the future. And I am back. And as I said, this is the very first Maw of Mike for 2022. So as I kind of alluded to when I was speaking with Julian, we are plotting out what to do this year. And there's a lot of stuff on that release schedule. Let me tell you, I think if you watch the holiday special that we recorded a week or two ago, Haley basically asked me what my job at DCC, what my job with Goodman Games has been recently, and my job is basically hitting that logjam that has come for, like, all the stuff that we've talked about in the past, and COVID has, kind of, kept from spilling out down the chute. I've been hitting that with a big stick, and I am very proud, very happy to say that the logjam seems to be breaking up. So this is the year, basically 2022, which is the 10th anniversary of Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game, is also going to be in some way the return of the Dungeon Crawl Classic role-playing game, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So we'll kind of go chronologically. I've mentioned it on other shows, and in hopefully about a week, give or take, maybe by this weekend, we will be announcing the mystery map contest for 2022. And if you may recall from the original mystery map contest that we did, we were basically doing something very similar to that. We will be posting a list of, we'll basically be posting the contest rules. And what we'll be putting out is a partially completed map, and with a weird piece of art on it. And we are encouraging everybody who wishes to kind of get noticed amongst the DCC writers to participate in this contest. It will be you fleshing out this map, drawing out the map, designing, kind of completing the map, and then presenting us a kind of an outline of adventure based on the map and inspired by an Appendix N, or kind of what we're calling an Appendix N adjacent author. So basically not only the names that appear on the Appendix N table, but if they have been mentioned kind of on the DCC, like the Goodman Games website, in one of the many countless articles and essays that we've been publishing on the website over the past couple of years, authors like C.L. Moore or Clark Ashton Smith or Charles Saunders or Harold Lamb, basically, if you kind of draw on them for inspiration, all the better, because we are specifically looking for people who get what DCC is about and also know their kind of their source material. So that is going to be the plan. We will same time as the last time, the adventure that we choose, we will publish it. We will pay the winner 1,000 cool dollars American, and we'll go from there. I mean, who knows? So like, we're always kind of looking out for new writers. Even if you don't win the grand prize, it's a good way to get noticed. So it will be judged by a panel of experts that I am putting together right now, not right now as we speak, but like when I'm not currently hosting a show, I'm putting together. We'll put it together and everything, and hopefully by GaryCon we should have a winner, and let you know, hey, who's going to get to do that. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I'm personally looking forward to see what people submit. As some of you may know, the last time we did this, we got the one who watches from below. So I mean, you kind of it's going to be a challenge. But we definitely want you to put on your thinking caps and do something that's not basically something that could have appeared on the Adventurers League for D&D or something. We want something that has that DCC 5. So keep an eye peeled on the website, and we should be announcing that relatively soon. So okay, so that's like that's the first thing of news. Second thing, which is coming down the line, is this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. It is, if you've taken a look on the website recently, you may have noticed that one of those perennial titles is no longer available, and that perennial titles is the Dungeon Alphabet, which, as I said, if it wasn't for that book, I would not currently be doing this show right now. So that was the Dungeon Alphabet was my way into this industry, into my role here into Goodman Games, and writing a lot of cool stuff for DCC. So we are going to be doing a reprint of that. This is going to be the 5th printing of the Dungeon Alphabet, but we're going to do things a little differently this time. As you know, we at Goodman Games, we do crowdfunding. We do a lot of stuff with Kickstarter when we have basically bigger projects, hardcover books, box sets, all the rest of that stuff. The Dungeon Alphabet hardcover book, we are going to be crowdfunding that. However, this time around, we are actually going to be doing it through Indiegogo. And the reason for that is kind of two. The first of all is that we've got a lot of stuff. Let me reiterate, we're breaking the logjam. We have a lot of stuff coming out and everything. So Indiegogo is kind of another way for us to get product out there and kind of gauge interest in it, and have people basically say, I want this, here's the money, let me know when it's done, without kind of cluttering up the Kickstarter end of the thing. So we're trying this out. We're going to basically Indiegogo going forward, if all works out well. Indiegogo will basically we will be using that for reprints of kind of already existing material, because Indiegogo, they're pretty much cool with that. Kickstarter, they are more like new stuff, and they a little like, well, we're not crazy about the whole reprint stuff. And the other thing, you can only, although we have a fine record of fulfilling all Kickstarter stuff. Also, Kickstarter doesn't want you to have a million different things unfulfilled at any different time. So this gives us a way to keep stuff flowing, and basically the stuff that you want, and just another way of doing it. So with any luck, couple weeks out from that, we were bringing out the 5th printing of that. There is a new letter, well, not a new letter, a new entry will be in the 5th printing, which is not in the other ones. And this is going to be another C entry. This is going to be C for Cipher. And the reason we have this one is because we had a German translation done of the Dungeon Alphabet in the recent past. And there was a problem with the word in German. basically we had to come up with something in German to fill a spot, and Cipher ended up being the replacement of that. So you're getting an extra letter this time around. If you participate in the Indiegogo for either the PDF or for the hardcover version of it, you will also be getting 10% off of the cover price. So it's a good way to kind of get involved in there and get it out there. All right. So that is, it's a new step we're trying. We hope it works out well. We know other countries have done the same thing, and we just, like I said, we want to keep stuff flowing out this year, and we've got a lot of reprint stuff which kind of needs to get done. You know what I'm saying? So that is pretty much the first thing that I have announced. The next thing, which is coming up, and I want to say it's going to be Q1. I could be wrong, because however, we're living in this time, and things could change tomorrow. But the plan is that DCC 100 will be the first Kickstarter of 2022. So finally, the music of the spheres is chaos will be heard resounding across the land. So Harley Stroh's epic spinning dungeon, convoluted, all craziness adventure, which is, if you know Harley, you know it's going to be good. But trust me, I read this one and I'm like, wow, this is, and this isn't just like, oh, it's a gimmick. No, this is just a great adventure. I mean, this is one of those things. It's like, okay, I don't think you could do this adventure in anything but DCC. I mean, it just from that feel to the fact that it's this whole intricate looking thing, with a dungeon that literally moves around and alters other parts of the movements. So you basically you basically have to solve the dungeon as the overall puzzle, and then you have to overcome all the little elements within it. And it's one of those things which could literally change the face of your campaign world. I mean, you could, it could end up everything in chaos, as the title suggests, or it's one of those things where you could be like, all right, man, and it's like, well, let's bring it on. So that is if everything is going as we were planning, that will be the first Kickstarter of the year, and we'll hopefully be coming up in a month or two. So if you already have every version of the Dungeon Alphabet, you don't want anything more, so put a little bit aside for for DCC 100, because that baby has been announced for like 2 or 3 years, or I forget when Joe first started talking about it, but this year, I promise it is finally coming out. We're finally going to get things moving, which, since it's going to be DCC 100, it's the return of core DCC. So it's, as I said, this is why I say this is the year of the return of the Dungeon Crawl Classic role-playing game. We've had a lot of fun doing Lankmar. We've had a lot of fun doing Empire of the East. We've had, Dying Earth is still kind of underway, and I will be speaking more about that before we call it a night here. But we haven't really done a lot of like DCC 99 was 3 years ago. So that's to say we're picking things up again, and we are rolling into we're picking up the DCC product line for those of you who just want to do appendix and style stuff without like focusing on like more or anything else. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be groovy, and it is also going to kind of lead the way for a few other DCC adventures which are kind of currently in the mix. If I have my way, we will have 2 or 3 other DCC, kind of the flat standard skinny modules coming out. DCC number 101, DCC number 102, hopefully DCC 103. And I will warn you, however, if you're a little OCD, because of all the elements of getting 100 out, DCC 101 might be out before DCC 100. So I'm just giving you a heads up, because it's a lot easier to do a skinny one than it is. So if you're going to have an issue with it, buy 101 and then put it somewhere and forget about it until you get 100, and then you can just start putting everything back on your bookshelf. That's my advice to you. But things are moving again, and so I will also say that this is the 10th anniversary of DCC. 10th anniversary. Can you believe we've been around 10 years? There have been some role-playing games which have gone through another edition since we have been around. So, some working on 3 editions at this point. We, however, are not. But we are going to do something special for the 10th anniversary. I can't tell you anything really about it right now, other than it's something that people have requested in the past, and it's going to be a lot of fun putting together. And there will be more about that later on over the course of this year. But don't think we're going to let 10 years pass, you know, unnoticed and unheralded. So cool stuff. So that's it. And yes, well, Jim's, I'm sure Jim Scatch will have to buy at least 3 copies of whatever it is we're going to be putting out, but we'll announce that later on. So I think that is kind of like the big, a reprint thing we were talking about. There's something that's been out of print for a while that people have been asking for. I think that is Idols of the Rat. No, it wasn't Idols of the Rat King. Purple Planet? Is it? I think there was some interest in somebody doing a maybe I forget. I don't know. Is anybody out there interested in seeing, you know, Perils on the Purple Planet return in hardback form? If you think so. So, because I'm very happy to say that I have just received the last of the stuff from Harley today, and if all goes well, Q1 this year, you know, maybe Q2 depending on how on, Purple Planet will be returning on Indiegogo as a reprint. So the Purple Planet, it will be the hardback version, the same kind of treatment we did for, it would not be a box set again, it will be a hardback version like we did with Chain Coffin. It will Harley has gotten all the glossography, and they will all be in this hardback version of it. We're still working out some of the details of everything. There will not be a ton of new stuff like there was in Chain Coffin, mostly because it's Harley, and you know, Harley is an excellent writer, but Harley, we were telling you that he's a very slow writer. So the idea was like, can we get this thing out, or do we wait another year? And so we're collecting stuff. We're going to see what we can do with like some of the maps and all the rest of that stuff. But for those of you who have been clamoring for the return of the Purple Planet, we will be attending that detail. I promised you when there was news to announce, I would announce it. So I am announcing it tonight. So that's it. So there you go. So look forward to that before too long. We'll make a more formal announcement of kind of when that will be going on Indiegogo, and when you can throw some money into that and get that your way. Also kind of tied into it, about the same time, there have been some people, we announced a little while ago Tome of Adventure, which is going to be a collection of some of the, I think the first 5 soft covers DCC adventures. That will also be coming out this year as well, probably roughly around the same time as Purple Planet. So, you know, people have been asking about Tome of Adventure, where is it, what's going on with it? We said we will announce it when we have news, and the news is it is coming this year. So so that's it. So like I said, a lot of stuff moving, and we're very much hopefully that that people will be happy to receive stuff now that it's back. See, I don't want to get too far ahead in the year, because, you know, I mean, as we've learned in the last the last 2 years of our life, you know, the entire future, like we made plans and the universe laughs. So, but there will be also same Mutant Crawl Classic support, which is coming out. We have a adventure which is Tim Snyder has written for us. This will be MCC number 12, and it's called When Manimals Attack. And it sure is a lot of fun. You know, it's got manimals, it's got robots, it's got, you know, it's got kangaroo mutants, it's got a little bit of, you know, Isle of Lost Souls, Isle of not Dr. Caligari, Dr. Zhivago, the Isle of Dr. Zhivago. Yes, it's very updated. So somebody will remind me, because I'm totally blanking on the other. Dr. Moreau, thank you very much, Julian. Yes, yes, the Isle of Dr. Moreau to it. And I also, there is some discussion right now. I'm kind of figuring out, is it we may at some point be doing a larger hardback release. Maybe there's some talk, but nothing set. Say maybe at some point in the future an MCC annual book kind of thing. But you know, but that's still all in the process right now. But as I said, some of the stuff which has not been getting support in the last couple of years because of all sorts of stuff will be getting more support now that I am in charge. So so that's I think that's it. That's got a lot of stuff. Those of you who are attending also at GaryCon, another Lankmar adventure will be released at that date, written by my good friend, Mr. Brendan LaSalle. And that will be called Mercy on the Day of the Eel. So they'll be available for sale at GaryCon if you are there, and also available through the website roughly around that time as well. So Lankmar is getting some more support. I have more plans for Lankmar. And I mean, there's more stuff to talk about, but I think this is about as far as I'm going to go tonight. I'm only go about 3 months into the future, and I still feel comfortable that I'll have a job in the morning. So, so that's what's been basically going on. I hope people are happy to hear that Purple Planet is coming back. The DCC 100 is finally going to be coming out, and as I said, we're going to keep things flowing on. Give us more. I cannot give you any more tonight, because as I said, a lot of moving places. I'm still nailing stuff down. But I didn't want anybody to like we forgot DCC Core. We haven't. We've really been working on it, and things have been coming around. So. I think that basically covers all the big stuff for the year. We will have more firmer dates, along next month when we return within the next month of Maw of Mike. For those of you who are playing along at home and want to know, basically, Dying Earth is moving forward at a clip. We have gotten to the point where I think we are 66% of all the stretch goals have been taken care of. The box set booklets are in layout right now. The first bit of artwork is coming in. I know we've had the adventures, the non-stretch goal adventures are basically going through editing right now. Some of them are ready for layout. So everything is moving along. I could not be happier with the way that Dying Earth is going around. We really do have our eyes set on fulfilling the Kickstarter delivery date of September this year, and if I can have any say in the matter, we will hit that date. So there you go. So it's going to be a big year, and whether you've been around since 2012 or whether you're just getting into the game now, I think it's going to be a great year for everybody who's a fan of DCC. Please do continue to let us know how we're doing. We're available. We're on the social media. I'm not active all the time, but I hear what's going on and things get back to me. So as I say. And Empire of the East Love, as I said, if you've just come in, we just had a big discussion about the Empire East second printing, which is coming out, which is new material of it, and hopefully there. I want to do more of it. We're trying to just kind of coordinate the schedule and stuff like that. I would love to do like another module or so for So there we go. So stuff is going on. I think that about covers it. As I said, more and more Empire. We're trying to do what we're going to do. So that's about it, folks. I think that's about all that we have for the evening. I hope you sign off excited tonight. Talk about it on social media for those of you who have missed it, and I will be back in a month with some more updates. And if you want to try your hand at writing for DCC, keep an eye on the website in the upcoming weekend on or around that date. We should have stuff going on. All right, and get your wallets ready for Dungeon Alphabet and all the other stuff which is coming out. All right, so I wish all of you the happiest and the healthiest 2022, and I hope that you get nothing but love and nothing but DCC, and everything is good with you and yours. So see you again in about 30 days. All right, good night, everybody.